We have episode 32 of Under Further Review. Steve here. We got Joe. We got Mike as usual. We have a fun one today. We have Quentin Lake of the Los Angeles Rams on today for a very awesome interview. Mike and I were on for that one. It was about a half hour. He gave us a lot of time, a lot of great topics. It was just all around a great interview. But I wanted to start.
Mike, you were on for it?
I was.
Did you ask him questions about himself?
I asked good questions.
Were you a good listener?
I think so.
Did you maintain eye contact?
Sometimes.
Did you keep it on the subject? Not you.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
I'll have you know, Joe, he's never taken a public speaking class. This was all on the spur of the moment right there.
He's a natural.
I'm a natural. I have the credentials. Or I don't have the credentials.
He was made for it.
He's going
to be a star, let me tell you. But before we get to NFL, I do want to eventually
Mike Freck up in his fucking soapbox. Did you talk about the Jets?
No.
I did make one comment.
A little bit about the Jets. It was about their quarterback situation at the end.
Oh, that's fun.
He saved it for the end. He held back, so that was good.
I did.
But like I was saying, we'll talk NFL in a little bit after the Quentin Lake interview. But I wanted to start this episode off because we haven't had too much of a chance to talk about it, the NBA, but specifically what happened over the weekend. It had me thinking, and I did see that the Bill Simmons podcast started this off. Joe, you probably listened to it already, Bill Simmons, because you're an avid listener. But I want to talk about the Knicks because one thing that Tom Thibodeau, I always have trouble saying his name, Thibodeau, he always is on the spotlight in national headlines for, kind of using his players nonstop during the regular season, racking up the minutes. And as you can see, all his starters are getting 35, 40-plus minutes. Brunson played 38 in the Celtics game, I believe. I know Cat was well above 40 minutes. Bridges, OG Anunoby, he just got back from injury. He's already hitting the 40-minute mark. I mean, these are guys, some of them have injury histories. Cat, definitely when he was with the Timberwolves, he went through some injuries. I know there's been some lingering things this year as well. And even in the Celtics game, I think he rolled his ankle at one point and Thibs threw him back out there. OG, obviously, big time concern. In the playoffs last year, he was out for the rest of the Pacers series. He tried to come back that one game. He just couldn't go. And then this season, he was out for a few weeks. Definitely an injury concern. I think Mikal Bridges has had his fair share of injuries in the past, too. I could be wrong there. But it's just, it comes back down to depth, and the Knicks don't have it right now. They could have it in the future. But, they're really riding their starters. And I think Bill Simmons made a good point because he was talking about how, this is not the time of the year to do it. As long as in the Eastern Conference you get the 1 through 4 seed, you're good, he said. He said you start playing your guys 40 minutes a game once the playoffs hit. But like guys like Brunson and Cat, who are very impressive, that they definitely should not be putting 40, 45 minutes into a game during the regular season right now, especially a Celtics game where they were down 20 points at one point. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that because we're in a modern NBA landscape where guys aren't doing that. Guys are barely making the 65-game mark to make them eligible for postseason awards. And that's been a big conversation over the past several years, especially with Joel Embiid and the 76ers. So what are your thoughts? Like, what is the happy medium now? Because, like, back in the 90s, this wasn't even a conversation. Guys just played. They suited up. Now it's like, if you played them too many minutes, people are talking about it. If you played them too little minutes or the players opt out, we're talking about it. Like, what is okay in your mind for not only this Knicks team, but the rest of the NBA?
We talked about this before the season started. I said that was my biggest worry in the playoffs last year. That was my biggest worry this year. We don't have the depth that like a Boston does, or even I think like the Cavaliers have sort of developed. Like, if we want to maintain the record that he's in a tough spot. Yeah, like Tibbs has stepped out of a time machine from 1982. He has no, he's the kind of football coach who'd have 3 a days if he could. Like the guy just wants to grind. He does not care about player health, and it's not because he's mean spirited. He's just a 20th century guy. He's got that 20th century mindset. But I think it is important that the Knicks probably get a top 3 seed. I think the Pacers and the Bucks are, the Pistons have had a great season. Obviously Cunningham has improved every year. Ivy has improved every year. Tobias Harris, Isaiah Stewart's legitimately a crazy person, which I think is great to bring that back into the NBA. You need legitimately crazy people, and that's something I always love to see. But I'd 100 times rather play them than even the Bucks, as flawed as they have looked. I do not want to play Giannis in a playoff series. Damian Lillard has looked, 85% of what he was, but even that in a playoff setting with Giannis, I don't want to see that. And I think the Pacers just probably mentally have our number, even though I think they got lucky with their injuries last year. I don't know. I think there's a medium, like you said, Steve, and I think bringing Cat back into that game the other night after he was injured, I think in the second quarter, I think his knee injury was coming back up again. I mean, you're jeopardizing your entire season just to try to get some positioning. And I think we're 4 games behind the Celtics for the 2 seed. I think the 1 seed were 10 games out. So I think that's an impossibility. But I think maintaining that 3 seed is important, but I didn't think he needed to take that kind of risk.
Yeah. So the one thing I want to point out is Bridges he's literally the only Iron Man left in the NBA. He's never missed a game in his career.
Okay, I was inaccurate.
So, just want to point that out. So run him. The only thing, so I just want to go kind of different on this.
He's worth 5 Luka Doncic's. He'd better be a fucking Iron Man. He better play 54 minutes a game.
Exactly.
You see Luka looks skinny now?
Did you see Luka? I don't think he took his eyes off the Mavs bench.
Oh yeah.
Nico Harrison didn't take his eyes off Luka.
Literally, just absolutely. But that's besides the point. So the one thing I want to bring up with Thibs is I understand the minutes and all that, and they're really high, and I get that. But what people don't realize is like where other NBA teams are having legitimate practices, the Knicks don't. So that's the trade-off. Like, yeah, they work hard in the games and everything, but Tibbs, as a professional, expects you. He's going to give you off in practice. It's going to be a soft practice, but he's going to expect you to show up. So I think like there's a trade-off, right? Like, and I think that doesn't get spoke about enough in the sense of like, yeah, that he's grinding them 35 minutes a night, but they're also not practicing for 2 days between the games. They're going up and they're just doing shoot around, and that's that. So I think there's a trade-off there. But what Dugan said is, I think he's correct. Sorry, Joe. In the fact that I think seating is important.
Dox me, bro.
Seating is important. I used to always think going into this, the Celtics were our biggest hurdle. Like I always felt like if we could avoid the Celtics until the Eastern Conference Final, like hey, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But we've kind of had the Cavs number recently in the last couple seasons. We don't have their number this year.
Not this season, though.
Yeah, so I'm honestly, I think that 3 seed probably helped. I don't think it really. It's tough. I think the one roadblock we had is now turned into 2 roadblocks. I'm not super concerned about playing Giannis. I don't think that team is the same Bucks intimidating team that it was. Of course, he's a all-world talent, but they're not clicking like they were during their championship runs. But I don't know. It's really hard because they've put so much into this team. They've made some really big trades for this team. And for us to consistently come up short against Boston and now potentially come up short against the Cavs, is that going to be the story of this team? Or is that going to be like, hey, we can't beat these guys, but we're going to give it the best we can to get to that point? I don't know. I think, again, seeding matters, but I'm not sure that it matters once we get to the second round because I don't know if we're strong enough to beat either of the 2 teams ahead of us.
Would you rather play?
What's the next?
Cavs or Celtics?
What's the next move for the Knicks? They just brought in Cat. Like
I don't know. You know what? I'm not sure. If I had to guess, obviously it's not happening this year. But if I had to assume, I'd assume you move Mitchell Robinson for, another maybe a I don't know. He's the only trade piece you really have. But the thing is, what are you bringing back? You're not bringing back, you're not bringing back a 2, 3, or a 4 for him. You're obviously just going to be looking for a center, but so now you're looking for a specific center. What is that center? And is Mitchell Robinson enough to get you that piece? You've traded away most of you still have a couple first round picks, so you could make a move.
What? I think they still have half of those draft picks that they racked
They
up.
do, but the thing is, like, it's the salary implications. Nobody understands the NBA salary cap. Sorry, nobody does. Do we have the salary?
Let's get Bam Adebayo out of Miami. What the fuck is that team doing?
Well, that's the kind of move I think you'd end up making is for a 5 like that pairs well with Cat. But the thing is, again, what is it going to take to get that guy? Do the Knicks have the cap space to do it? I don't understand what the first floor, the second floor, the third floor, and the penthouse are. It makes no difference to me. But yeah, that's really the only piece you're going to move for is another 5. And to answer your question, who would I rather play at this point? I'd obviously rather play the Cavaliers. But I used to feel confident in saying, "Oh, I'd rather play the Cavaliers." I don't feel confident saying that now. They literally they beat us up.
Yeah, I still don't trust them in the postseason. They remind me of the 2015 Hawks and the 2021 Utah Jazz. Just like sort of a known quantity that's always been like a 50-win team, and they have younger guys like maybe Garland truly has made a leap, and that'll translate in April and May. But something just tells me like there's very little chance I think that they're going to be a tougher out than Boston or able to beat Boston, even if they win 60 games.
But are the Knicks a kind of like like you just said about the Cavs? The same could be applied to the Knicks. We only have 1 year of playoff experience, really, and even then, it was only into the second round, obviously. So it's like, do we have that cachet? Do we have it? I tend to think that our stars show up. In like Cat showed up in the playoffs last year. Brunson obviously is a house. I'd like to see what Mikal Bridges can do in a playoff series. We saw what OG can do when he's healthy. Josh Hart, if we can get the Josh Hart we got last year in the playoffs pre-injury, this is a hard out, this team. But the same could be applied to the Cavs as well. You know what I mean? It's one of those weird things. I used to be really confident, and after this weekend, I came away like, can we beat either of those teams? But I do feel confident in saying whoever comes out of the East is going to win the whole thing.
Yeah, just one last. Sorry.
Go on, Joe.
One last thing, because I know Steve's been inching to get in there.
Well, I have a few notes in my head, but
yeah.
All you, Joe.
No, but when Steve and I were talking about this when the Knicks season ended last year, that the future was bright, but you never know when these opportunities come, because I think the East, we can all agree, was like as wide open as it has been other than Boston. And the Knicks have not made it past the second round since before Shaq and Kobe won a title, since Gladiator was the number one movie in America.
What was it, 97, right? Or 98?
2000.
No, 2000, that's right.
Thong Song by Cisco was the number one song in the nation. Tom Brady hadn't played in the NFL. Like it was a long time ago. And you never know what teams are going to rise up. And I actually thought it was going to be Orlando, who's been very disappointing this year. But it turned out that Cleveland was going to be the team that was sort of going to pose like the second largest threat, and then obviously I think like Milwaukee and Indiana has sort of stayed pat. But I'm not saying I'm optimistic, but I'm just saying Cleveland's more dangerous than I thought, but I still would much rather play them than Boston in the second round.
I've been watching the Vice St. John series on Rick Pitino. I think a lot of people forget that he was the original coach that helped them get back to the promised land and start making the playoffs. And he made that crazy jump to the Kentucky team that was facing the death penalty, and they obviously ended up not getting it because he ended up winning a championship there. But a few notes off of what you guys said. First off, I think the Cavs are in a very similar position as the Knicks, where last year they kind of proved their worth up until the injuries hit them. They got the guys. Garland's there, Mitchell. Let's not forget about Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley really surfaced last year during the playoffs, and he's a big piece of that team. But my other thing is I want to go back to, the fatigue thing, because I would say that, like, yes, maybe they're not practicing like other teams, but if you're playing 3 or 4 games a week, 2-3 games a week, whatever it may be during that given week, and you're playing 40 minutes a night, you're logging a lot of miles on those players. And last year, like that was a controversy last year. The injuries did catch up to them, and I'm not saying that I'm not fully blaming it on like the amount of minutes that they played during the season, but I kind of am at the same time, because like not every team faced these type of injuries that the Knicks were racking up during that time. And you could see, and Simmons said this too. He's like, I watched the Knicks players in the third, fourth quarter after the Celtics rested their guys during the entire third quarter, let the Knicks come back a little bit, and then their guys were ready to close out the game. Meanwhile, Josh Hart's sitting by the bench right before the quarter starts, and he's huffing and puffing and having trouble getting back on the court. Like these are athletes, but at the end of the day, they're still people. They're human beings, and like these minutes are going to catch up to them. So I don't know. Like I've always been a believer that you should suit up for every game that you're healthy for. I don't believe in load management, but I do believe in depth on an NBA roster. And you see, like all the successful college coaches, they go 9, 10 deep, especially once March Madness hits. It's the same thing with the NBA. Like that was our big concern with the Lakers. Like when they got Luka, who else was going to come onto the court other than their starting five? But they're proving that some of their bench guys that they've held on to, Dalton Connect and others, like they're being instrumental pieces. Well, they're not going to get the headlines. They're not going to be the stars of the team. Obviously, Luka's going to steal that. LeBron's going to steal that, especially if he keeps putting up triple doubles as a 40-year-old. But I mean, these teams that make it deep have those role players, not only in the starting lineup, but beyond. I mean, think of the Miami Heat team that went to the final a few years ago. There's a bunch of I think they experienced injury problems even, and they had these guys that were on the bench most of the season, and they stepped up during the playoff run. I mean, the Nuggets are kind of dismissing that because they really stuck to their starting five, right, Joe? They had that one that white dude that came off the bench. What was his name?
Braun?
Yeah, I think that was his name. But
he's been a pretty good player.
Otto Porter Jr.?
Was he off the bench that year?
No, I guess not. They were one of the thinnest teams you'll see win a title, and they did play. I mean, the bracket did kind of open up for them, but at the same time, Jokic is worth like 2.5 offensive players. So I mean, you really can't. As great as Brunson is, there's a difference between like an ISO heavy guard and the greatest passing big man we've ever seen.
Yeah, but also, the one thing about Joker, he plays a lot of it's lazy, but he plays a lot of defense. I mean, he impacts both ways. So yeah, I think that team was different. They were a short bench, but their short bench versus the Knicks short bench. Does anybody believe in what is it, Landry Shamet? I don't know. To me, we have a bench of.
He's a solid journeyman, dude.
Yeah, journeyman. Exactly. There's a reason why he keeps having to bounce around. But like for me, we have a bench of 2 men essentially, and it's Campaign and Miles McBride. Like outside of that, is there anybody off that bench that we can point to and be like, yeah, okay, Huck Porty as a 5 he's better than Jericho Sims. I'll give you that.
You don't like Precious?
Precious Chua, but he's again, goes to your point to prove your point a little more. I guess is that he's dealing with injuries constantly. It's hard. But if you told me right now that off the bench come the playoffs, I'll have McBride, Payne. I'm going to throw Huck Porty in there because he has made a difference. He handled Embiid very well. And I'm unfortunately not watching tonight's game, but I think he is playing. And then
we could use a guy like Hartenstein. He'd fit perfectly.
Yeah, or if only we had him. And then Precious, those 4 guys. But to go 9, have 4 guys come off the bench, I would take. But I still don't, the Knicks, that's just Thibodeau's thing, though. It's always been his thing, is that his benches are short. But, all these guys love to play for him. If you listen to any of those players when they talk, they'll go 45 minutes. They have no problem doing it. They, physically, you're right. They're humans, but they're not complaining about it. So, I mean, who are we to complain? It just sucks as fans, like last year, when they all dropped like flies when it comes time for the playoffs. But
if it works. And I think it works for like if you're happy with your team that makes the playoffs. But we also have to remember Thibodeau. I don't think he's ever won an NBA championship. He always had those Bulls team in the running. But I think of it from this standpoint too.
When the running of his Bulls,
Joey the Bull Dugan. When I was watching those Bulls team, I told myself Derrick Rose is about to be like a generational player. And during that time, that stretch, he played like it. But
that team was stacked. Don't underestimate the supporting cast.
No, it was a great supporting cast. But I mean, Rose was the guy.
Luol Deng's name has died to time, but he was a top 10 2-way player in the league.
Joakim Noah, great center on that team.
I mean, he was like top 10 MVP voting a couple of years.
Yeah. But
Very
like,
much a Draymond Green precursor.
but I'm talking like the star of the team was clearly Rose, and he could take over any game, and he did several times in the playoffs, and he was really making a name for himself. But then the injuries kind of crept up on him, and then he got old, and then he just wasn't the player he used to be. And I, I don't know. Like I'm thinking from like baseball terms, when you log a bunch of innings on a pitcher's arm, eventually when they're 30, 35, whatever it may be, like they're going to start slowing down. Do you think that falls into the NBA category too? Because like, I mean, Rose was with Thibs for a while.
That was
A lot
a
of,
freak injury though.
yeah, you could put it under that, but I mean, just going back to the coach, like what I was saying, like, can he get over the hump? Is my thing. Like, and how many years do you give Thibodeau? Like, they just gave him an extension, I think. Like,
They did.
are you okay with the second round? Are you blaming a second round and done on Thibodeau, or are you blaming it on the front office of the Knicks? Like, where are we with this conversation?
I don't know. I'm going to be honest. As a Knicks fan, I'm still very happy with where we are. I mean, we've been. I'll be the first one. I was out on this front office so early on, and Leon Rose is a very good general manager. I think that's pretty clear. I mean, as Knicks fans, we all can attest that the last, you know, better out of a total of 25 years, it's been the last 2 or 3 that have been really enjoyable, and that has everything to do with Tibbs and that front office. So I don't blame them. I think that sometimes you just it's just timing, right? Like right now, we're in a period of time where the timing's not right. You've got the Celtics, who are, like 15 years old, winning championships, who aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And then the Cavs team that's also very young. And then there's us, as a Knicks team, and they're not very young. Like, they're not old, but they're not young.
This is our
So
window.
yeah, they're all 3 teams are right now in a window, and it just seems like the Celtics are just coming to theirs, and the Cavs are just coming to theirs, and we're just coming into it, but ours isn't going to be as long as theirs. Brunson's what, 28? I think Josh Hart's 28. Towns is probably around. They're all probably around 28, between 28 and 30, and these teams are just so young. They've already extended their guys. I think it's
Well,
timing. I don't blame Tibbs or the front office on that. I think it's just timing.
if this is their window, then you put all those picks up for sale and you go get Giannis, because that window will close very quickly if you don't play it right.
I agree
You
with
have
that.
somebody else.
I agree with that, but at the same time, do the Knicks have what it takes to get Giannis? Because granted, Giannis would have to want to come here, which I'm sure that probably isn't that hard to convince a star to come play here. But then it's the other component of it is do you have what it takes to get him from that team? Do the Knicks have what another team wants? I honestly, if you're looking at it, in all honesty, if you're a team like the Bucks and you were going to trade Giannis to the Knicks, you're going to want a ton of first round picks, which I'm sure the Knicks can come up with. But outside of that, who are you adding to your roster from that trade? Like,
I say we hit up Nico Harrison. We could he'd probably take McBride for Anthony Davis.
you know what the sad part
Maybe
is?
Kyrie Irving for cash considerations.
You're probably right on that. But I mean, I think that it's going to be the next trade they make, if they make a big move, it's going to be for like a megastar, in my opinion. So a guy like Giannis that's upset. I mean, he's really the only one. I thought they would take a look at Butler, but I don't think he would have fit what we were looking to do. And especially, where was he going to play and who are you going to give up?
I never understood why they didn't go after Brendan Ingram or someone, because he could have been a good third player on this team.
I think they were so affixed on the chemistry, which I do like that they built a team with chemistry. This team clearly has chemistry. They like to play together. I don't think Ingram would have fit that, but also Ingram, to me, I was a big fan of his when he came out in the draft. To me, he's just been one of those guys where he's like, there's so much talent and it should be so much better than it is.
Yeah.
But
He looks like Kevin Durant after a few drinks.
Basically,
like, if you really squint your eyes, he kind of looks like KD.
Like, he literally was
not quite there.
He was supposed to be the next KD, and he just wasn't. I'll be honest with you, though. I've been watching some of the Giannis
third option though. That wouldn't be bad.
Zion's games, and Zion looks really good right now. But I can't imagine that they would. Why would they trade him at this point? But he lost the weight. He obviously cares. He looks really good. I think he could be a guy that's worth looking at if you could ever convince him. But for me, I think it's one of those two guys, whether it be Giannis or Williamson.
I think this front office does value the same thing you were talking about too, which is guys that fit into their lineup. Because a lot, if you go back to the offseason, a lot of Knicks fans were upset that they made that trade because in the playoffs they were holding on to those memories of the three Villanova guys, DiVincenzo, Hart, and Brunson, really gelling together. And before the injuries, that they really could have made it to that Celtics round, but then the whole idea of hey, like now we're bringing in the fourth Nova guy and they're on every basketball magazine and sports magazine, and everyone's gearing up for the season, and they're like, "This is it, we're doing it." And then they make the trade, and everybody's like, "Oh, we got rid of one of the Nova guys." And some people had question marks about Cat. That there's, but like if you read the comments from like the Minnesota Timberwolves like social media accounts, people were heartbroken that they got rid of this guy. So I don't think any trade. This is like a top tier trade right now. Like I would like the way it's worked out for them. That this guy is getting, he's getting 30 points a game. He's getting like 15 rebounds a night. It's just like it's really worked out in the Knicks' favor, and we just like don't know until it happens. Like what's going to fit, how people are going to perform in New York. Just remember, like New York are haters until they're not. You got to prove them wrong, and we got to they got to get over that second round hump because that's really the big issue right now. And in order to do that, you're going to have to get past someone like the Pacers, the Cavs, maybe even the Celtics if you meet them early enough. So
As long as the Pacers have Miles Turner and his 4-second shot release, we have no chance.
that killed them. That
He
3-point.
shot 70. Unofficially, I think he shot like 70% from three in that series.
Could that be
It was
why?
disgusting.
Could that be why they put such an emphasis on getting Cat? Because Turner crushed them with the 3-point shot, and they wanted someone who could hang out at the 3-point line from the center position.
I mean, if you want to build your entire team around stopping Miles Turner, I'm all for it.
It wasn't
That's how
stopping.
you win championships.
I honestly think that the Cat trade, I think they do on paper.
I'm half kidding, by the way. He
They
actually
do match
was
up
that
very
good.
well against the Celtics on paper. They have sacrificed a lot of defense, which I know a lot of people are meh on, but I think that Cat trade was specifically for the Celtics. I do think it does match up well for Miles Turner, though. I think it helps us.
I think they put more of an emphasis on the defense. They really wanted guys that can stick around with some of those Celtics guys. But think about the team that they have now. Like they're all 3-point shooters. OG, Bridges, Cat.
OG's got to figure it out because he has been lacking from three, like pitiful. Like tonight, he's 1 of 5. Like you're making a lot of money, my man.
Bridges has to be. I know he's having a great night now. I think he had like 18 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, Bridges is having an outstanding night. He's 12 of 16 as of now, 3 of 4 from 3-point line.
He needs consistency, though.
Yes, he does.
By the way, I've started playing DraftKings again just so I can get more familiar with the players. That's the only way I can. And there's always sort of a lag because I always think of players in terms of like the last couple of years. So I'll see like Royce O'Neal and I'll start to get really excited. It's like, wow, $3,400. He can hit some threes.
Last topic for NBA, and then I want to kick it over to the interview. What's your thoughts on the flopping? I know that like it really started to get a spotlight last playoff with Brunson. When he's driving, he does that little thing where he like pops up and it keeps moving, like he got like hit from behind or something. But apparently, it's like happening on every play. Like you do a screen, he's falling to the ground and kind of acting out, and like other moments in the game. So a lot of people are putting him in the James Harden flop category, and then Hart got fined for the flopping. Are you a fan of all this? Like, it seems to work for Brunson. He gets a lot of free throws during the game. The refs seem to be in his favor. So, like, you kind of run with it, right?
I mean, he gets hit pretty hard. I mean, he does embellish on things, but most people say that he gets hit pretty hard. So, I don't know. I don't. It doesn't bother me.
He's also like 125 pounds.
He's definitely more than that. He's a thick boy for the height he is.
Whatever it takes to win.
Yes.
I'm all for it.
Still moves pretty good. In the playoff, he proved that he took a beating. So like you're correct. Like he gets your best defender. They're playing physical with you the entire game, and also like they're trying to get you off your game, out of your rhythm while you're on offense. So like he takes a lot when he's on the court. But yes, that's I guess NBA talk for now. We'll continue throughout the season. It's starting to vamp up. We're starting to get
And no
close.
one's as bad as Trae Young with that stuff. So as bad as Brunson could be,
No,
Trae Young makes James Harden look, honorable.
no
So
one has a worse hairline than Trae Young either.
it's not even a hairline; it's just a little piece of cotton candy.
All right, so we'll kick it over to the interview. Quentin Lake, like I said, it was just incredible interview. Mike can attest to that.
Yeah, he was a good dude. Really good
Pumped
dude.
out to you guys. So we'll kick it over to that, and we'll be right back. Hey, what's up, Quentin?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey,
Good, good. How are you?
Man, good. Can't complain.
Can you can hear us okay? By the
Yeah,
way,
I can hear you guys. Hear you guys real good. I'm actually gonna turn you guys up a little bit. Should be good
okay.
now.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Of
By the
course,
way,
man.
that Joker art behind you, awesome.
Yeah,
Some
you
cool
like it?
stuff
Yeah, it's
there.
cool. I'm big into like comics and stuff like that. So
No, more
Okay.
importantly, he's a gamer. He's got the Call of Duty chair. It's obvious he's gaming.
yeah. I just started playing. I don't know if you guys heard it. It's a pretty big game now. Marvel Rivals. So
Oh, I play a lot, like every night. So I play a lot.
okay, cool.
I don't do
Yeah,
ranked. Once I put the baby to sleep, I get right on with my friends.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been
Who
playing.
do you use?
So I was a Bucky main, and
Okay,
then um me and my friend, we kind of got into competitive a little bit. So now I just switch off Bucky, Thor, Luna Snow. So those are
okay,
like, if you were to say like, hey, out of all the three different, characteristics or groups, themes, whatever, those are probably like the main ones I play.
gotcha, understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Captain America main mostly. I like to
Oh,
just get
yeah, I
reckless.
hate Captain America.
I
So annoying.
like to get reckless. Captain America and then Hella.
Yeah. Oh, those are great characters if you know how to play them well.
Absolutely.
Is that like just is that like Street Fighter, like where you just face off against
No,
people?
no,
Have you
it's
ever heard of Overwatch?
Yes,
So it's very, very similar.
just
Almost
with the
copy and
Marvel
paste. It's
characters.
just different, yeah, different character.
yeah,
That's
it's a
cool.
cool game. I enjoy it, and it's
Yeah, it's
free.
fun.
But then you get caught up in skins and battle
Yeah,
pass.
exactly.
It's
Now, what comics are you currently reading? Are you the type that stays up to date with it, like on a weekly basis?
No. I mean, when I was young, a little bit, like, you know, obviously the Marvel universe, the DC universe, like those are big things when you're kids, Superman, Batman, all that stuff. Right now though, for me, if you're I'm big into anime, huge into
Okay.
anime. I don't know if you can see it, but this is like it's almost like a rug, but it has One Piece on it. So I'm huge, big anime fan, huge anime fan.
Where
It's
did
one
that
thing.
love come from for you?
Uh, I don't know. I always just watched cartoons when I grew up, but I think
Yeah.
it really took off when my first year in college. My first year in college, my roommate, he was big into it, and I wasn't watching it that much. And then he was like, "Man, just watch a couple shows." I was like, "All right, I'll get back into it." And then ever since that point in 2017, I was like nonstop. So I
It's pretty
watched that more
crazy.
than like regular TV at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see like guys like Jamal Williams who are so pro anime.
Yeah,
Like it's so weird. It's
yeah.
it's not that it's weird. It's so cool that like you see like football and anime. Like you would never
Mhm.
think there's that crossover. It's
Yeah,
pretty incredible.
yeah,
And for me, I think Jamal Williams is hilarious. Like I,
yeah.
I I just think he's out there, but he's out there in such good ways.
He's a character for sure.
Definitely is.
Yeah. You talked about, and do you mind if we rock with this? I think that's
Yeah,
a
yeah, go
cool,
ahead. We're
pretty
rolling.
cool conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, by now, if you don't know, we have Quentin Lake, safety for the Rams. I don't
DB
know if not the
DB
same
at this point,
Lakers.
honestly.
What's that?
I said defensive back at this point. I play
Defensive
everything.
back,
I
yeah.
play everything.
Yeah, I'm always like questioning that. Like,
Yeah.
what is the role? Is it like a nickel type thing package?
It's interesting because the league's kind of changing. They're getting guys that can play this hybrid, versatile role, guys that can, play free safety, play strong safety, can go down there in the slot, play man to man. So it should be interesting to see in the next couple years how that position kind of translates and how they value it. But at this point, I just say, if there's four DBs out there, I say safety. If there's five DBs out there, I play nickel. That's the simplest version of it.
Yeah, that must be fun for you because like planning the different schemes. I'm sure it's a little different every single week for you as opposed to, the traditional safety role or the traditional cornerback role. Is that correct? Would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on a week-to-week basis, it's probably hard for opponent offenses to kind of get a key of, where is this guy going to play? You kind of have to, as an offensive coordinator, now adjust your game plan a little bit to be like, hey, where is this guy going to line up against us this week? And then, that kind of we have the power play because now we can be like, well, if they don't do something necessarily well, hey, we'll put you at this spot. Or if they do something well and we want to minimize that, we'll put you at this spot. So, you know, over the course of this season, our defensive coordinator did a great job of putting me in different positions to be able to make plays, help other guys as well, and just make sure that our defense was rolling on all cylinders. So it was great.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw that position go into effect. So I watch a lot of Michigan football.
Hmm.
I'll admit that I grew up with Michigan.
Yeah.
Um, I remember Harbaugh implemented it with Khalid Hudson, who was on the Commanders for a bit. Not too sure where he is now, but I remember it was just such an important role on that defense, and it almost turned into like would drop back in coverage package, but it was mostly turned into like another linebacker per
Yeah.
se, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
that was something that I wanted to ask you about because if you look at your stats, and I know stats don't tell the full picture all the time, but
Hmm.
111 tackles, 73, I think, were solo, which is just incredible. Two sacks, even. So you're getting played in the box a lot. There's some blitz packages surrounded around you. But just like the 73 solo tackles tell a big story for me because you're taking those running backs and receivers head on, dropping your shoulder. Where did that like sense of like no fear come from for you?
Yeah. I have a story about that. So last year, you do kind of um a thing where you understand what are your weaknesses and what are your strengths in football, right? And one of my weaknesses, quote unquote, was play strength. That was coming into my second year in the NFL. It was play strength. People didn't necessarily think I had to play strength. And so I made it a goal for myself. And to your point of talking about like fearlessness and the no fear concept, I made it a point that year. I was like, well, let me change that narrative about myself starting in OTAs, starting in the off season. So I made it an emphasis to have my team, my teammates, and my coaches understand that, I am a good tackler. I can hit. I'm not, I have that no fear mindset. And I think having that mindset, obviously, my second year had a fairly decent year. And then especially this year, you don't have like for me, I'm not a Cam Chancellor. I don't have Cam Chancellor's height, his size, or I would say his power. But at the end of the day, if you can get a guy down to the ground without giving that extra yards after catch, you can be a fantastic tackler in the NFL. So you don't have to be a boomstick guy. You don't have to be, this crazy, I'm just gonna lay everybody out when I hit them. But my thing was, let me just be a sure tackler. Um, and also what comes with that is you have a lot of opportunities to make tackles if you're out on the field for a long time. So that no fear mindset, not only does it help you make the plays that you need to, but it also protects yourself as well because you're not hesitant when you're going in to make a tackle and stuff like that. So yeah, that mindset started 2 years ago and it's going to continue the rest of my career, but I made it an emphasis for people to know that, I'm out here to tackle, I'm out here to do my job in the best way possible.
Yeah, and that makes me think that kind of falls in line with something that I was thinking leading into this interview, which was sixth round pick. You were in the 200s.
Mhm.
I believe we had someone a while back, Andre Smith, and I think he said there's a term for sixth round picks because you're always aggressive, you're always trying to prove yourself. I think it was six round mafia, but I could be wrong. Something like along those lines. Maybe I'm off with that. I have to listen back to the interview that we did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, your first season, 9 games, zero starts. Your sophomore campaign, it was 4 starts. And
Hmm.
then this year, you were pretty much a pivotal part of that Rams defense
Yeah.
where you started 16 out of 17 games.
Yeah.
And you really started to once again stats, but double-digit tackles every game to
Yeah.
close out the season. What was that journey like? Because you talk about like early on, you told yourself, "I got to live with no fear,"
Yeah.
but just like proving yourself to, the coaches and just making your impact in the NFL, which you truly had this season.
Yeah. I mean, the journey, it's been up and down. I look back at my rookie year, look back even before I got into NFL during the NFL Combine and the pre-draft process. I was dealing with a lot of injury. And that's kind of, once I got recovered from that, halfway through my rookie year, and then I was able to play special teams my rookie year, get my feet wet a little bit in some games. That momentum that I took, that little bit of experience, I kind of took that into my second year. And I always made it a point of, just constantly improve, never stay steady. And I think that's shown really over the 3 years that I've been in the NFL is, it's been a gradual increase of, you know, performance, and production. And I hope I keep that upwards track even into next year. Obviously, my goal is to be, one of the top guys at my position. Whether it's the stats short or not, I want people to be like, he's a damn good player when you see me on film. Um, Obviously that takes, the hard work and effort, but um, yeah, it's been a gradual increase and it's been fun at the same time. The Rams have a great organization and they allow guys to really develop, while they're here. Um, so yeah, the journey has been great. Year three was, I'm very happy, not satisfied, but you look back and you have to give yourself some gratitude, at some point. And yeah, I'm looking for bigger and better things in year four. Obviously, didn't have too many coaching changes this year, which is like people don't understand when you don't have any coaching changes, that is huge in the NFL. Not having to deal with a new system, knowing familiar faces, knowing the coaches know how you play and the communication that goes on too. So, you know, by saying that, I say that to be like, it's going to be the gradual increase should be easier because I'm not dealing with all that stuff as well. I'm healthy as well, so that's a big thing. I was dealing with injuries early on in my career. So just always just trying to be on the up and up. And the journey has been good. It's been tough, but I'm in a great spot right now.
That's awesome to hear. That is good stuff.
Yeah.
I want to take it back a little bit further though than the NFL and college. What was it like growing up in a household with a dad that
Yeah.
wasn't just a football player? He was like the football player.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, some people say you have to live up, so for the people that don't know, my dad, Quentin Lake, played in the NFL 13 years. For me, having that figure in my household early on, you can either be like you have to live up to the expectation or you change your path and try to be your own person. For me, he was my role model. So that's what I wanted to be. He set the example. He laid the groundwork for what it meant to be a hard worker, what it meant to be a great man, a great father, and also a great player. So following that was easy, and that's what I wanted to do. It was so interesting when I started first playing football. I was playing running back. I was playing kind of like more offensive positions.
Mhm.
And it was at one point, people were like, "Oh, your dad played DB? Oh yeah, you're gonna play DB." And at that point, that's what it was. Like I just started, just my defense career just took off early on. Um, but that's some of the things like when you're young, you kind of understand. Looking back at it now, you understand how well respected he was too. That's another thing that, I'm kind of realizing now. Everybody had great things to say about him. How he played, they say, man, your dad was a beast when he was playing. Your dad would, knock people out, all that stuff. So hearing those stories, it's like, wow, he was a great player. And for me, it's like, how can I take my game so that I can be as great if not better than him? And I always say this every time he gets brought up is, yeah, he was a great player. Yeah, he was a five-time All-Pro, five-time Pro Bowler. But there's one thing that he doesn't have, which is a Super Bowl ring. So that would be like the first flex over him if that were to happen, which would be great. But yeah, he had one hell of a career. Obviously, when we talk, we talk football all the time. But having him like that early on at a young age, I'm so grateful because it kind of laid the groundwork of, hey, this is the right thing to do. Not as a football player, but just as a person in general. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's awesome. And now with that, it didn't seem like a lot of guys. You think there'd be a lot of pressure to make it to the NFL.
Hmm.
Did you? It seems like you didn't feel that. It sounded like you would have been. He would have supported you in anything you did. I'm sure he
Yeah.
would. And it. But did you feel any of that? Like my dad's in the NFL. He was a
Hmm.
player. I got to get there. Was there any of that or?
You never get it. I never got it from him. I always would get it externally. Like, hey, your dad did this. You have to do this. But it never came from him. He was the type of person to take a step back and be like, this is your life. You decide what you want to do with it. If you want to do football, hey, I'm here for you. I'm going to support you no matter what. If you want to do another sport, if you want to go in a different direction, you know what? I'm just going to go hands off. This is your life. I want you to form your own path. And I think that just comes with him as well as he wants us as me, my brother, and my sister, he wants us to form our own lives without having that pressure, because sometimes that pressure can be a lot.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that's what I wanted to do, so it helped me out. But
Listen.
yeah, he was, now looking at it, he's more hands-on now than he was when I was young. He never wanted to coach me. He never wanted to get involved with the coaches or have the coaches think some type of way because he was an NFL player. He just wanted me to form my own path. And I'm like, I look at it now, I'm so thankful. At first when I was young, I was like, man, why don't you coach me? Why don't you do this? Why don't you coach me when I'm, playing football and stuff like that? You want that as a kid, but the way he did it was good. Um, and it ended up working out, and I understand why he did it too. So, I can't regret it. I can't be like, oh, I never tell him like, oh, I wanted you to do that. He did it the right way. He did it the way he thought it would work best. And, that's all you can ask for as a father. So, um, yeah, I never got that pressure. Never got that pressure. That's something that I always wanted to do. There was no pressure to get to the NFL, and getting to the NFL was my personal dream anyway. So, and here
That's
we are.
awesome. Yeah, you did it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you went to UCLA.
Hmm.
So, what was college recruitment like? Obviously, your dad also went to
Yeah.
UCLA. Was that always where you wanted to be? Were there other schools that you looked at that you really liked, or was it just kind of like you wanted to be a Bruin, from when you were a little kid?
Yeah, you have all the UCLA stuff at home just because of him, just because of my dad. But I will say this, I didn't really know too much about the whole college football recruitment just due to the fact that I came in high school with an injury. So I
Mm,
didn't play my freshman year of football. Sophomore year I played JV. So,
mm,
I was like thinking about it, I was like, oh, I'm just out here having fun, like playing football. When it came to my junior year, the starter in front of me got hurt, and I ended up playing. And uh, surprisingly, that was one of my like really good friends to this day. And they ended up putting me in. I did really well, and I didn't look back from that point. And then people were talking about, oh, like, you're getting letters from colleges. I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, is this something that can extend off into college? And then you get around like my people around you, like we had guys that were getting, you see the guys with like 50 letters from D1 colleges. That wasn't me, but I'm like, oh snap, like this is really a thing. Like Amon Ross St. Brown, who I went to high school with, they're getting letters, like all the St. Brown, they're getting letters. Um, a bunch of guys were getting letters that went to modern day and ended up going to the NFL.
mm.
And so I'm like, oh, this is cool. So it started off real small. Hawaii, Nevada, San Diego State, like all those colleges. And then I did really well my senior year, and I'm like, oh, wait, which school would I really want to go to? And then obviously went to a UCLA camp, went to a USC camp, and those were like the two main choices. When I went to UCLA, I had went to a bunch of they had pro days because my dad was still coaching in the NFL, and he would work out the guys that were doing the pro day when he coached for the Steelers. So I would go there with him. I would see the guys that are working out, and I would see the campus, and I fell in love with the campus at first. So it was like UCLA, USC. And when I decided to make my decision, I had UCLA in one phone, USC in one phone. At night, I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And I ended up picking UCLA. So it just felt like home, and it also felt like a great place to start early, to kind of get that football career in the collegiate realm early so that I had better chance to get to the NFL. And it ended up working out really well.
That it did.
Uh, so I can't be mad at it. I can't be mad at it. Now,
Absolutely.
did we suck my first couple years? Yeah, we went 4-8. Where did we go? 4-8, 4-8, junior year, 4-8. No, sorry, 6-6, 4-8, 4-8. Then COVID,
8-4.
and then 8-4, I think. So not too bad. Got better, but those first couple years, man, it was tough.
Yeah. I had a question on that because you did talk about the buildup. This is kind of a two-parter. How does UCLA consistently keep California players in that state? I know it's
No,
not.
surprisingly, they don't though.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big issue, and
They
we're both
don't.
New Jersey, and we always talk about that too. How like Rutgers is having trouble, and because New Jersey is known as a pretty athletic state.
Yeah.
It has a lot of great high school athletes, but Rutgers always has trouble keeping New Jersey athletes within the state.
Yeah.
You see a lot of those Big Ten SEC schools come in and scoop up those guys, and Rutgers is a Big Ten school now, but how in your opinion, because I know it's not your job to do it, but
Hmm.
in your opinion, how does UCLA retain that talent from the state? And the second part is, and we can maybe save this for another question, but what did you think of Chip Kelly deciding head coaching in this landscape of the game with NIL wasn't for him, and he went and became defensive coordinator of Ohio State, and now he just got a position in the NFL, I believe, so it worked
Yeah.
out for him, but it was a big surprise when it first happened.
Yeah. So to your first question, honestly, I don't. UCLA used to do a really good job of retaining talent just in Southern California. But I think what happens is like NIL, I would say changed it a little bit, but also like you look at the Pac-12 situation and all the West Coast teams, like I think after the coaching change happened at UCLA, because if you look at UCLA, UCLA has a lot of, decent guys in the NFL. From if you say from 2010 on, they got some guys. Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, they had Miles Jack, Kenny Clark, like, they had some good dudes come out of there. But, I don't know. Something happened, something shifted where now all these guys in SoCal, which some of them aren't really even from SoCal. Like they're going to these big schools. Like you'll transfer in from another state, come to St. John Bosco or Mater Dei, and you're already used to a situation where, oh, I already moved from one state to come here just to play football. Then you have that mindset already. So it's like, oh, I'm just gonna play football here, get a big offer, and then go somewhere else to an Alabama, to a Michigan, to a Ohio State. So like they're like a lot of these kids, it's like it starts in the high school era. Like they're not just retaining, it's not like SoCal kids anymore. Like you get kids from all over the state coming to these high schools. Somehow, some way they do it. I don't know. That was after my era. So then that happens, then you get guys that are used to moving around, and then they'll just okay, it doesn't matter. I'll just move to another big school. So I don't really know. And then you got powerhouses. They're kind of like doing NIL in high school now. So then it's just like a domino effect when you get to the college scene. That's why I don't like you don't see a lot of SoCal guys going to these, UCLA, USC schools anymore like that. And that's not why they're contenders. And then to your question about Chip Kelly, I like Chip Kelly. I loved him. He was great, treating me like a pro. Um, I could understand the reason why he would move away because of NIL. It just becomes a lot. Like you have to think he came from a system where he was getting, grade A talent without having to pay guys at Oregon, and that might have stuck in the back of his head. He's like, why am I going to deal with this now at UCLA? Obviously, the like he did okay. It wasn't like we went to the Pac-12 championship or anything like that. So he's like, okay, I'm just going to move on, become a play caller at Ohio State. They ended up winning the Natty. So, I mean, hats off to him for doing that. And then one successful year there, and here you are being an offensive coordinator in the Raiders. So it's interesting to see kind of how like the coaching carousel goes. But at the end of the day, whether you're a player or a coach, it's what you put your like what is your resume of football. He won a national title, now instantly goes into being an offensive coordinator. That's usually how it goes, you know. You look at Kellen Moore for the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl head coach, you know. Ben Johnson, great year at offensive coordinator, head coach. So like it's all about production. It's all about how you do, how well you do, and the body of work you put out there. So I can understand. It wasn't too much of a surprise for me, but I am happy for him. I'll probably send him a text, you know, say what's up. But luckily, I'm glad we didn't play the Raiders this year because that would have been an ass whooping. You know, I would have talked a little mess, but
Oh boy.
I'm excited to see what he does in that division. That division is getting super competitive too with all the coaching changes as well. So, you know, it's exciting. It's going to be exciting football this upcoming year, especially for the AFC ones.
I'm glad that you said that. My friend Tommy is a diehard Raiders fan. I'm going to make sure he listens to that part.
Yeah,
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah.
So it's funny that you brought up the NIL stuff. I'm a big Rutgers fan,
Mhm.
unfortunately. And it was funny. I was talking to Steve today about how they actually had to cancel a facility they were building because they needed NIL money. And that's
Mhm.
number one. But yeah, it's just funny how that all worked out. But that leads me to my next point. UCLA and the Big Ten.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you
I
think it was
hated it. Hated it.
okay?
Hated it. It's so funny because why would you break up one of the most competitive years in the Pac-12 to move to the Big Ten? I understand it's a money thing, but you had Washington and Michigan right before you broke up the Pac-12. You had at least, I think it was like 4 or 5 teams ranked in the top 25 at the beginning of the year. So it's not like good football wasn't being played in the Pac-12. There was some good football in the Pac-12.
Yeah,
The thing that's unfortunate is we never, at least us, we would never get the good time. So we would play at 7 o'clock. Nobody on the East Coast at 10 p.m. is gonna watch college football, unfortunately, unless it's a big game. Like if it's let's say it's like Michigan versus I'm excluding like Penn State and Ohio State. Let's say it's like Michigan versus somebody else. People are gonna watch those games,
Mm.
you know? But you're not gonna get that national and those games are being played at 10, 12 o'clock, you know, midday. If it's Washington versus Oregon, which is could be a good matchup, that and it's at 7 o'clock at night, you're not gonna watch it. So from that aspect, I get it, but I just didn't like how they broke up one of the most competitive conferences that year and could have been a competitive conference next year. But then guys are like, oh, the Pac-12 is getting broken up. I'm gonna move here, and then you have NIL where you can just, I'm going here. Oh, I don't like it. I'll move the next day to another school. Just start train. Like to me, it's crazy because like if we transferred, you had to sit a year. So
Yeah.
like there's the risk to reward is way more volatile than now. It's like I'm just gonna try and pick the best fit that I think, and it's just different now. It's crazy. I didn't like the move. I get it's a money thing. It was good to see the games being played though. Like when we played Rutgers this past year, like that game was like midday, so I was like, nice, I can turn on the TV. Didn't have to wait till, you know, forever. But it kind of just sucks for the players too that every other week you have to fly across the country to play a game and they get used to the time change and all that stuff. But it was a good move. It was a good move. I didn't like it, but in the grand scheme of things, was it probably better for the organization? I would say so.
You guys had a better first year in the Big Ten than we did. So
Yeah.
I think we
yeah.
were 1-10 our first year in the Big Ten for a couple years.
It's crazy to think about like California and Stanford being in the ACC. ACC Atlantic Coast Conference, and you have Pacific teams coming over to
It
play
makes
conference games. Um, I know just for the sake of time, is it cool if we ask 2 quick questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I want to just jump back to the season. I'm sure you've talked about this quite a bit at this point, but the team started 1-4 this year.
Hmm.
I know just like growing up, you know, watching the Giants, they were the local team. A lot of times when they made their Super Bowl runs, it came after 1-2, 1-3 starts, and the headlines used to always be no team makes a playoff run after starting the season, you know, 1-2, 0-3, whatever it may
Hmm.
be. You
Hmm.
guys started 1-4 this year.
Yeah.
And then you turn around and you're in a you know a comp or a division that has the defending NFC champions, the San
Yeah.
Francisco 49ers. So that's tough competition right there. You know, the other two teams were no easy task this season either. What was just like the feelings going around after that 1-4 start? What was instrumental to the turnaround and just making the playoff? I believe no, not the first time. You made it last season, and
Yeah.
but just making the playoffs again when everybody probably counted you out. What was that like?
I would say the biggest thing was it wasn't unfamiliar that we started 1-4. The reason why I say that is the year before that we were 3-6 before the bye, so we were 3 games under. Um, and at some point you can't let your routine change. You have to just keep chopping, keep doing the same things that you have done that have made you successful. And I think as a team, we kind of understood that. After last year, we understood the mentality that it took, the body of work that it took for us to ending up making it to the playoffs and playing Detroit. So we kind of use that same mindset and say, hey, this is not unfamiliar territory for us. We understand what we had to do. I think another big thing for us though was we got some guys back healthy. That was huge for us. We ended up getting Cooper and Puka, kind of towards that, you know, early or later half of the first half of the season this year. And getting those guys back, that was huge. Got some other guys back too. But when you're decimated with injuries early on, it's tough. It really is. Do you want to start 1-4? Of course not. But it wasn't unfamiliar territory. And I think the biggest thing was, you don't ride the emotional wave. Coach McVay does a great job of making sure that we're locked in and we're understanding what the game plan is each and every week. But he also understands that, you have to have the same mentality you do when you're winning. That same mentality you had to have when you're losing too. It doesn't change. The mindset of I'm going to come into work and give it the best I can each and every day, whether the outcome of the game was favorable or not, it has to be the same. And so him giving us that understanding and that perspective really helped us, go on a tear, really the second half of the season, and ending up making it to the division round. People were like, after 1-4, people were like, no way the Rams are going to do that. They're decimated with injuries. We don't know what's going to happen. It's looking like a rebuild year, whatever. And then you go games 15, 16, 17, and you're like, oh, these are Super Bowl, these guys are Super Bowl contenders. Watch out for the Rams. They're the dark horse. And if, we're 14 yards away from going, from hosting an NFC championship in LA. So we have a really good team. The mentality around these guys are young and hungry. They want to do everything they can, not only to help the team, but, to go out there and put their best body of work out there. So it's fun being around a group of guys like this. I'm excited for next season, but, we know how to overcome adversity. It's nothing new for us. So if we were in that position again, pray to God we're not, but we would know the necessary things to do to overcome it.
Before Mike jumps in, we have 2 minutes. I just wanted to throw that out there. Zoom's giving us 2 more minutes, but
Gotcha, okay.
Mike has one more question.
Yeah. So I was going through trying to prepare for this, speaking to you, and I watched some YouTube stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I came across your pregame speech against the 49ers.
Yeah.
And so I have one question for you. It's going to be the most important question you're going to be asked.
Yeah.
If it came down to you giving one pregame speech or Jameis Winston,
Oh, Jameis got
who would
me.
you choose?
Jameis got me, man. Jameis, like, I was talking about that, like, all the clips when he was going viral of his pregame interviews and postgame interviews. I was like, that looks like one fun player to be around. Not only, like, just him as a person, but everybody that I talk to, they say it's authentic. They say that is who he is as a person, and I mean that's awesome. Like even when he was doing his Fox segments, I believe at the Super Bowl, asking the guys the question, great, like that. I mean, and that just goes to show not only is he a very genuine person, you can tell he loves the game, and he just has like the personality for it. I'm not gonna say my pregame speech wasn't bad, but that is Like if you're comparing me to Jameis, that's tough. Like I
Yours was
don't feel like
good. Yours was very good. I watched it and I'm like, this is really good. And then I'm sitting there and I'm watching Jameis and I'm like,
yeah,
I
it's
don't
like that's a whole different, that's a
know. I'm very pro
league.
Jameis. As a New York Jets fan, we are in the market for a quarterback.
Yeah. You
Jameis
gotta
it's the holdover.
yeah, you gotta love that guy though. You
Yeah,
gotta love him.
He's an
great
awesome.
personality.
Great person.
But yeah, Quentin, thanks so much for joining us. That was an amazing conversation.
Oh, of course, man.
Really cool being able to chat.
Appreciate you guys. Stephen, Mike, thank you guys so much for having me on.
We appreciate your time. Thank you
Of
so
course,
much.
man.
Yeah, so that was Quentin Lake. He's a defensive back. He kind of corrected me during that interview. I called him a safety, but he kind of plays a hybrid position for the Rams, where he can come into the box, but he can also drop back in coverage. But yeah, let's start talking a little NFL. We're now starting to get into the off season. Free agency's right around the corner. The draft's coming up pretty quick in April. So there's going to be a lot of NFL headlines coming up quick. I know a lot of teams gave permission to players today and yesterday. I was seeing a lot of those headlines to seek permission for trades. And I eventually want to talk about Stafford, but I want to keep our theme going, kind of our blind draft theme. And this should be a pretty good one. I know that you guys have
Players named after bodies of water. I got Quentin Lake.
Here we go. And for our guests today, we'll
Frank Ocean. Schitt's Creek.
How far do you think you can get with names?
I had 3 lined up.
Brandon. But yeah. Joe, we've done this a few times. I want to keep updating it though, because it's fun. I want to do a blind draft of top 10 quarterbacks in the league right now. Do you think that would work?
God,
let's give it a shot.
I just pulled up last week, so I had Keenan Allen, Keenan Thompson number 1.
I feel like you guys might have like a list already in your head. So like, I don't know.
Yeah, right. I don't know how blind this is.
Yeah, this isn't a really. Let's just do top 10 each from each person. Let's hear what your top 10 is at the moment.
This is just an excuse to do a QB rankings again.
Sure.
Steve, we've done 800 of these.
Yeah, maybe we should stay away from this.
We haven't done it with Mike yet. Maybe he's got some hot, spicy takes. I don't know.
How about let's do a blind draft of top sports movies?
It's kind of the same.
Right. Mike, I'll let you choose.
I mean, I'm okay doing the quarterback ranking.
You popped your interview cherry. It's your day.
Yeah,
you go.
I'm okay doing the quarterback ranking just because I don't want to do sports movies.
Movie quarterback rankings.
We'll do sports movies next week.
I have Adam Sandler.
Okay.
All right, but blind draft. Let's do a blind draft of QBs, and let's just get into it.
Okay. I'm going to start it off with Joe Burrow.
Don't just do the top 10. Like, throw some curveballs in there.
Throw some curveballs in there, yeah. All right,
I want to get the top guys in there, too.
All right, well, throw us some curveballs. I don't know. You pitched.
Okay, let's go.
I want to see, like, Mike White thrown in there.
Don't do that. All right, Joe Burrow.
Pretty good.
For me, I'm going to put Joe Burrow at 3. I think that he is probably the best pocket passer in the NFL currently, with a little bit of giddy up to him. But I think that could you imagine if that man had an offensive line, what he could do? Whew. Someone put him at 3.
Steve, I implore you not to name Lamar Jackson because I know he's saving a spot for him. And I want him to be in the same spot I was in last week. You know what? I'm not going to be a prisoner of the moment with how Mahomes played. Actually, no. I think he might be the best quarterback in the league right now. I'll put him 1.
Really, Burrow.
With what he did, they lost 5 games, scoring over 30 points. But then again, his weapons were ridiculous.
He also had his house robbed.
Yeah, that actually might be a positive.
My wife thought that was funny.
Didn't the 2 Chiefs players, Kelsey and Mahomes, too? They were a part of that.
Yeah,
they robbed Joe Burrow's house?
They did, yes, while he was playing.
Those bastards.
Oh, they robbed.
Don't they have enough?
Okay.
All right. So next, I am going to put Dak Prescott out there.
Ugh. Okay, so I think that he is better than people think. I think you can win with him. I do not think that he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's right outside that. So because of that, I'm going to put him at 10. But I do think that he is a top 15 guy in the NFL. I think you can win with him. And if you told me at some point in his career somehow he threw for 45 touchdowns and rattled off an MVP, I wouldn't be shocked. But I'm going to put him at 10. He's outside of top 10 quarterbacks for me, but on this list, I'll make him 10.
I think there's a good chance he might have won the MVP in 2020, that season he got injured. He had roughly 2,000 yards through the first 5 games.
Yeah, when he broke his leg.
Yeah. And that was one of those situations sort of like where Burrow was in, where it's pretty clear that he had to carry those team to victories. I'm really expecting Steve to throw some curveballs here, maybe in some retired guys. So I'm going to have him at 7.
No retired guys, but you might get a few curveballs starting with this one. So the Saints just said that they're bringing back Derek Carr, so I want to name Derek Carr as the third quarterback.
Well, that was my 10. I'm going to put him at 9, and I don't think I need to explain why.
No, you do.
All right, Derek Carr, to me, is the definition of average. I mean, he's not good, he's not bad, he's just average. He's the kind of guy that, to me, he'd be like the perfect bridge quarterback. I know that they look at him as a franchise guy and they paid him like one, but in reality, I don't think you could win a championship with Derek Carr. But I think you could do a lot worse than Derek Carr. So I'm going to put him at 9.
What was that look? If you had to rank quarterbacks on eyeliner, where would you put him?
Oh, God, that's a good one. 2. No.
All time.
All time? I don't know. I'm going to put him at number 1.
Nice. That's where I'm going to put him. Are we talking about 2017 Derek Carr or now? Because I have very strong opinions about prime Derek Carr.
Joe, you remember that back and forth we got into about Derek Carr?
Yeah, that was psychotic. You called me up. You called me up at like 9 p.m. and just started telling me how much Derek Carr sucked.
I said at the time he wasn't.
I don't know how you knew that would get me angry, but it did.
Joe,
I had a long day of work and I didn't want to hear that.
Joe was adamant that he was a top 15 quarterback, and I thought he was just on the outside.
I said he was above average, and then I said that makes him top 15. And then we went through every starting quarterback, and I think I put him at like 1. No, I don't know.
No, you put him at like 14. So he was like borderline 15.
Exactly. He's not good. He's not bad. He's average.
At this point, he's bad.
Derek Carr, the first 2 weeks, probably number 2.
Yeah. So where do you rank him
really
now?
good.
What's your top 10? Where is he?
For you now? Right behind Joe Burrow?
I can't put him last. I can't. I can't do it. I'll put him 9.
In 2017.
Well, 2017 Derek Carr, I don't know. Watch out, Joe Burrow. All right. I have him at 9.
9? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do Bo Nix.
Oof. So me and Steve had an argument recently about Bo Nix. Funny. So I think Bo Nix is the perfect. I think he's the perfect game manager for the NFL game. I think he does just enough to get it done. I think there's a little more to his game that we haven't seen. I don't think he's better than Dak Prescott, who I put at 10. He's definitely better than Derek Carr, who I put at 9. I'm going to put him at. I'm gonna put him at 8. But I like his game. I like the way he gets the ball out quick. He's got some mobility. He definitely has arm strength. I mean, him and Mims seem to have a really good connection downfield. I like that. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I think he's going to, be around that top 10, top 15, like in that, that little 5, quarterback range. So I'm going to put him
century Jake Plummer. I've always told people that.
Not what I was thinking, but sure.
I think
you didn't like Jake the Snake.
I can't say outside of like 2 years in Denver, I really could not have cared any less.
I think the
But
moral of the story is I like to argue quarterbacks in my free time.
yeah,
True.
we'll just wait till we start doing draft stuff. But I'm going to put him at 8.
8? Okay. Bo Nix at 8. Joe, what do you got?
Sounds good to me.
Are you doing 8? Really?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
going to be a car Dak sandwich. Nick's right in the middle.
Okay, cool. Josh
You
Allen.
can move to the next.
Oh, God. So,
Sorry, Freck. 10's already taken.
so I'm going to answer this in a honest way and not be biased.
Answer it in the
I'm not putting
haiku.
him on the list. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Josh Allen is he's coming off his best season. I still stand by that Lamar Jackson should have won that MVP, and I think him winning first team All Pro says that. I think we're rewarding Josh Allen this year because he did not turn the ball over as much as he normally does. However, he did have a good year. If you ask me right now, I would still rather have Burrow than Allen. But Allen right now is a top 5 quarterback. I hate saying that. I'm going to put him at number 4.
All right.
I don't want to talk about him. I don't like the guy. So
You're screwed if I don't say Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes.
Don't.
no, it is what it is.
All right. So I think you're overreacting to the Lamar Jackson MVP thing. I think you have to realize that this MVP voting is sort of the way sports writers and these voters like to think of themselves as like the gatekeepers of history. Like when you look back, is a person's great run sort of captured? So it's more like if Lamar Jackson had not won an MVP yet, he probably would have won it this year. But he has 2. And there's I think there's only 5 guys who have ever won 3. And he hasn't gone even to a Super Bowl yet. So it's kind of hard to give him a 3rd one, if that makes sense.
No.
All right, Mike. You know what? The less MVPs he has before he wins a championship, the easier the conversations will be around him. Because if he wins 3 MVPs and he still fails to even reach the Super Bowl, it's going to get ugly out there.
Could you imagine if he won 6 or 7 MVPs and never gets a Super Bowl?
Oh my
that would be
God.
funny. Come on.
Even I would be rooting for him at that point over Josh Allen.
Actually, I probably wouldn't root at that point. I'd stop rooting for Lamar Jackson. Just be like, I want to see how far this can go.
Let's get to double digits.
All right. I didn't mean to hijack your time. Sorry.
Baker
Okay.
Mayfield.
Wait, did he even
I
give
didn't hear-
his ranking?
Damn.
It's gonna be funny if you don't say Mahomes, but I'll put him at 3. Maybe it'll be somebody ridiculous at 2. I don't know.
Now you got to pick a new quarterback. We don't want that one.
So we're not doing Baker?
No.
All right. Let's
You don't like him either? Jeez.
No, I do like Baker Mayfield, but he already said it. I want to be surprised.
let's do Jaden Daniels then.
All right, so he's a rookie still. He's coming off his rookie season. He was a very good rookie. I would find it very hard to rank him any higher than these guys that have done it before. So I'd find it hard to rank him above Josh Allen, which I don't think anybody should ever do. You can't rank him. You really can't rank him above Dak yet, and I'm going to have to. Oh, God. You can't rank him above Burrow at all. I'm going to put him at 7 because he's a rookie. He had a really good year. I think he's got the potential to be a top 5 talent, but he hasn't done it enough. He's coming off a great rookie season. I think probably the only quarterback rookie-wise that could say anything about what he's done would be Ben Roethlisberger because, did Roethlisberger go to the AFC Championship his rookie season? He did. Yeah, I don't know.
Beat the Jets.
Yeah, he did. There's only a few. He did not beat the Jets.
Yeah, he did. Don't question me on that shit.
Oh,
He did.
Yes, he did.
He did, sir.
You're right. And the only other guy outside of him to go to a championship game would be Sanchez. He's in rare air.
Flacco.
Flacco too. So I'm going to put him. I think he's got the potential to be a top 5 guy. I'm going to put him at 7 because he hasn't done it more than 1 year. So let's see what it is. I'm going to put him at 7.
I'm going to override Steven here, and I'll let you switch Allen and Daniels right now. I want to see how spiteful you'll get.
Nah, I can't do it.
All right. Yeah, I mean, this is the hard part about going second because Mike is just so learned. I just can't add anything.
Can I switch Dak and Allen? Is it too late?
Hey, look, I'm high on Dak Prescott. I usually am. I'll put him at 5. That's fine. I don't even think he played that badly in the championship game. I just think he
No,
took
not
an
at all.
underwhelming team.
I think we actually talked about this. It wasn't so much that the Commanders lost that game. The Eagles just won it. None of them played particularly bad. It was just, the way it goes. But moving on.
But that was, come to think about it, that's like one of the most well constructed rosters we've seen in the longest time. Though the one that I can think of that is close right now, maybe the Seattle Seahawks, when they won the Super Bowl, but that was just a dominant force waiting to happen. Justin Herbert.
Oof. You're really making this sucky. So I think Herbert's like the definition of like could be better. I look at him and I look at a guy who I think should be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And for me, it just hasn't clicked yet for me. And he leaves a lot out there on the field. The great thing is he doesn't turn the ball over very much. I'd like to see him move the ball with his legs a little bit more than he does. But he's not a top 5 QB for me. I'm going to put him at 6. But I think he probably sits somewhere between like that 12 and 8 range in reality.
Yeah, I'll put him at 6. It was difficult for me because I think I've been sort of a defender of his, similar to Cousins or Prescott. I think that single game sample sizes in the playoffs could be misleading, but I don't think there was any defending what he did against the Texans. You mentioned he didn't turn the football over. I think he had as many picks in that game as he did like all season. I know Harbaugh style offense, you're going to have a quarterback that throws for, 12 touchdowns and a pick and 2,000 yards. But regardless, he made some awful, awful throws. And I thought that Jaguars game a couple of years ago was sort of a fluke. Their offense still more or less showed up. But now you have these 2 games, 2 of the worst losses you could pretty much start out your career as a quarterback. And I have no idea what to think about him. It could go either direction or it could sort of stay the course where this guy's like a Tony Romo kind of figure. I have no idea. So I think 6 is pretty appropriate. Just sort of an unknown with limitless potential.
So both 6. Let's go Brock Purdy.
Shit.
I actually am a defender of Brock Purdy.
I'm glad I cleared up my number 2.
I think he's probably the new Kirk Cousins, in my opinion. I'm going to put him at 5 because I'm not putting him 1 or 2. He's a game manager, does what he needs to do when he has the talent to do it. I don't think he's ever going to be the reason you win a Super Bowl. Probably won't be the reason you lose it either. But he's a game manager. He's average. He's definitely not a top 10 quarterback for me in the NFL. I like him a lot. Again, he's one of those guys that sits in that 10 to 15 range. But yeah, he's average.
I think he's above average.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have him at 4.
Yeah.
I think it's the reason the Niners are even competitive this year with their injuries. I think there's plenty of quarterbacks that get paid undeserving money. Being a Giants fan, we've seen that happen. I don't know how much money he's gonna get paid, but
you're talking about the Drew Lock deal, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Jake Locker deal. What the fuck were you thinking? I don't even think he made it to a second contract. Rest in peace, Jake
Rip.
Locker.
Rip.
Yeah. I think he's like one of those guys who doesn't get flustered by what's happening around him. Even on the biggest stage, like when it plays, there's not many quarterbacks that can look that calm when it plays completely broken down. And I know he's had some good weapons in his career, even though, I think at this point, I don't know what to make of Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel is maybe like a 1 or 2 year wonder. But I don't know.
It seems like Deebo's on his way out.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think his agent wants a lot more from him. Or no, rather the team wants more than like a 5th rounder for him. but I think other teams have sort of smartened up to it. Yeah, I think forward's pretty solid for him. Yeah, I think he's just got. He has poise. I don't know. I think the Niners would have been like a 4 or 5 win team without him this year. Honestly.
All right.
Now, do I give you guys the obvious two, or should I shy away from them?
Well, just to recap, I have number 2 and number 10 open, and Mike has 1 and 2 open. So,
Yeah, obviously Steve's going to be a douche in some way, so let's just get it over with.
All right,
you should have planned this out ahead of time, so like this wouldn't influence.
Jalen Hurts.
Oh, I love Jalen Hurts. I'm putting him at 2. Fly, Eagles, fly. I'm just kidding. I think Jalen Hurts is a lot better than people think. I think he got the monkey off his back with the win. He's a good quarterback. He is. I mean, people get down on him, but
I might be in a worse position than you. Fuck it. I'm going to put him 10 or 2.
Yeah, I like Jalen Hurts. I think he does everything the Eagles need him to do. I think, one thing I like about him is when something's not working, he goes a different route. If he's not getting it going with through the air, he's running the ball. If he's getting bottled up, or as we saw, he got hurt in the Rams game, he's throwing the ball. I mean, he's a good quarterback. I think that he's one of those guys that probably won't be appreciated fully until his time is come and gone in terms of playing. But yeah, I like Hurts. I'm comfortable actually putting him at 2 based off the names we've gotten. And he's got a Super Bowl ring now to justify it. And he probably should have had an MVP a couple years back, but he didn't get hurt. So, yeah, I'm going to say 2.
All right, Steve, is your last quarterback dependent on where I put Hurts?
I have a name already.
You promise?
I do, yeah.
As a Giants fan, I'll just put him 10. I can't put him 2. I'll put him behind Derek Carr. I think that's pretty on brand for me.
But if you weren't a Giants fan, where would he be?
Yeah, no, he'd probably be 2. But then number 10.
Listen,
10
I respect it. I respect it. See, just remember who's more unbiased. I gave Josh Allen a higher spot because I was unbiased.
What have the Bills ever done to the Jets? Ever?
They're in my division. And what do you mean? We are the whipping boy in our division.
No. The Patriots. You're the Patriots whipping boy. Occasionally, Miami's whipping boy.
Everybody.
The Giants have become Washington's new. It's mostly been the Eagles, though. Like, I don't even mind the Cowboys. It's pretty much a wash with them.
Yeah, well.
Because when Dak Prescott has their number, we're not even competitive, so who gives a shit?
All right, let's get it over.
I'm just saying, when the Jets were good, you went against like J.P. Lawsman.
I used to have the one thing I used to look forward to as a Jets fan is that no matter how bad things got, no matter how bad they ever got, I knew we always had at least one home game against the Bills.
Yeah, but then Roscoe Parrish would ruin your afternoon.
Yeah, basically, and we can't even do that anymore. So
I went to Chad Pennington's last game, which was against the Bills, when who was the guy who replaced him?
Pennington?
2007.
I think it was Brooks Bollinger.
Kellen Moore?
You're talking about that year. Yeah, Kellen Moore took over, and then Brooks Bollinger took over after that.
Brooks Bollinger. Ravens legend.
Yeah.
I wanted to let Quentin Lake know that last year I went to the game that the Rams clinched at Giants Stadium, clinched the playoff spot. I forgot about that. Fun facts, if we're throwing those around. But for quarterback, this ranking, I could really fuck you guys if I said Trevor Lawrence right now, but I'm not going to do it.
I still believe in him, so that's fine.
Yeah, I do believe in him, but he's not number 1.
Bring it on, dude.
I refuse to say Lamar Jackson here. I'll say Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, what do you know? My ranking looks good. 1. There we go, baby.
And
there we go. I don't mind it.
Yeah, Joe.
You saved both of us.
I wanted to save you guys. I wanted to give you a lifeline, some life support.
What you should have done is just like put him in a hat and pulled him out.
Yeah.
So there's like no.
Yeah, with like some kind of theatrical act that goes with you pulling, like dress up as a magician. And then
you actually took all 32 quarterbacks and you drew them out of a hat and then put that into another hat and then you drew that out.
That's a lot of work.
Like we could have the worst 10 quarterbacks in the league and you wouldn't even know.
All right, next time. There's plenty of blind drafts.
This is what gets the people watching.
I I will come up with blind drafts every single week, and next time I will put them in a hat, so you guys are happy.
There you go.
But let's continue NFL talk. I know we don't have too much time because our interview was pretty long this week, but what are your guys' thoughts on the recent development that there's a team? I think it was assumed to be the Packers, but I could be wrong there. Wants to get rid of the tush push. They're pushing for that.
Oh, it was the Packers. They put their name on it. The GM came out and said it was us.
That was Washington.
No, the GM for the Packers said 100% they wanted out of the game. I personally, you know what? It's one of those things where it doesn't bother me. It is what it is. I mean, any other team can do it. Like Andy Reid said it best. Like we, in referring to the Chiefs, said we would do it if I thought we could do it correctly. Listen, I know people say it's not a football play, but it is. It's going to take a strong defensive mind to stop it. Come up with a plan to stop it. Specifically, not what the Commanders did. But yeah, I don't care if it's there, if it's not there. Obviously we played the Eagles and we had to go against us, 2 years ago. So, or last year, whenever it was, 2 years ago, whatever. But it's a football play, whether we want to accept it or not. Is it annoying that on every 4th and 1 you're going to get it if you do it correctly? Sure, I guess. But, it's not going to be annoying once somebody figures out how to stop it. It's like, if you remember when the Wildcat came into the NFL, when the Dolphins brought it out, nobody could figure out how to stop it. And then 2 years later, nobody's running it anymore.
But can you stop this? Especially like what the Eagles did in the NFC Championship game where
the way that defensive lines currently are constituted with smaller, you don't have like a true nose tackle in the NFL for the most part anymore. The way you stop it is you're going to stuff your line, you're going to stuff the gaps. That's the way you're going to stop it. But you need some thick boys to do that.
You need to find like 5 or 6 Vita Veas and just have them on your team for those situations.
Basically, that's basically how you're going to stop it. So I don't know. Out of many things, this doesn't bother me.
Okay. I don't want to talk about the I guess AI computerized chain gang that we're going to have in the NFL this year. That I feel like that's a little bit of a boring topic, but let's move on to Stafford, Matt Stafford. He's going to be a big conversation over the next few weeks. There's several teams that are in need of a quarterback, including Joe and I. We love the Giants, and our Giants are apparently their reps met with Stafford today. But there's going to be the Raiders involved. There's going to be, I believe, the Steelers will be involved, a few other teams. He's going to be a big-time price, though. I don't know if people remember when the Rams were building that Super Bowl roster, they gave up a lot of draft picks, and now they kind of stunted themselves for upcoming drafts, and now they're trying to get it back. What do you think it's going to take to bring in Stafford? Do you think there's a world where you can couple him in with Cooper Kupp? And at this point, if you're in a Raiders/Giants position, do you want a 37-year-old Matt Stafford?
No, for his own good, he should stay away. I think he wants to end his career on a better note than that. You have to be really bad to say you're not a Hall of Fame quarterback away from the playoffs, but I think I said it last week. He'd bring us to 7 or 8, maybe 8 wins.
Well, where do you judge?
Our skill players are pretty good. I'll say that, but that's
where do you think the Giants are lacking? Because I know the record was bad last year, but they have 2 great linebackers. They have their whole front seven's really good. Their defensive line is one of the best in the league, I would say. They have a playmaker in Malik Neighbors. Tracy showed that he can handle the reps in the backfield. Singleton is a nice backup to him, or Singletary, I should say, is a nice backup to him. You bring in a quarterback. I mean, they started fixing the offensive line last year. John Runyon they brought in. If Andrew Thomas can stay healthy. Evan Neal actually had the best run rating on the offensive line this year, as much as we want to bash him over the past few years. What's his name? John Michael Schmitz or something, the center.
Yeah, the center.
He can take that step forward. That they have that. They have the one other guy that they brought in free agency last year. So if you stay healthy, you have a formidable offensive line there. Tyler Nubin looks like he's going to be the next very good safety in this Giants factory here. And, if Banks can show that he can stop the top guy on opposing offenses, which is a big if, like, realistically, maybe you are a quarterback away from making the playoffs.
So my input, obviously, I'm as a third party, not a Giants fan. I look at it for me from an outsider looking in. It's going to be viewed as I need to save my job trade, in my opinion. I like Dayball. I don't really care for Joe Shane. I think it'd be viewed as a Hail Mary to save their job. I think what you guys had said is 8 or 9 wins, and what you stated there, you need a lot of things to go right. Which they could absolutely go right for this Stafford thing to make sense.
Well, realistically, if you get Stafford, you hold on to your third pick. If it's a big if.
I was about to say, it seems like that's going to be in play.
Even if you keep your second round pick, you can easily try to get a cornerback. I mean, look at Joey Porter. He fell to the second round a few years ago, and now he's a very good corner for the Steelers. Now my 3 glaring holes on this team is cornerback, quarterback, and maybe another offensive lineman. Just to shore it up. They got that tight end from Penn State last year. I think he's going to be good. So if you can capitalize on this by bringing in a quarterback and hitting one of those other holes during the draft, then all of a sudden, there's very few needs on this roster if they can stay healthy. The thing is, like you said, this is definitely Joe Shane is on the hot seat for sure. Joe Mara even came out and said, "Hey, I don't like losing. I don't want to lose anymore." He pretty much said he didn't want to make the change because he's sick of changing GMs and coaches. It wasn't because of their performance or he has a liking towards them. I think if they lose again this season, they're definitely out, both of them, the head coach and the GM. So the one thing that keeps playing through my head, somebody told me this the other day, and I'm starting to agree with it because it comes down to the Shedeur Sanders thing is you shouldn't go shopping hungry. And right now the Giants are hungry for a quarterback. And if they don't make this Stafford trade, they're shopping hungry by reaching on a rookie. That it's a 50-50 coin toss if he's even going to work out because Cam Ward, I think almost definitely it's leaning towards he's going to be one of the first 2 picks, in my opinion. So now you're stuck with either taking Shedeur Sanders because the draft boards have been saying it for months, or you take a flyer on a guy like, Dart or Jalen Milroe we talked about at one point, or whoever we think has a high ceiling. But that's the position the Giants are in because this draft class is so bad. So to me, am I ridiculous by thinking you go out and get the 37-year-old veteran, try to see what he can do in 2 to 3 seasons, and then go from there?
No, I don't think I'm not I think I told you earlier, I didn't think it was a bad deal. My concern with, and obviously having just gone through a very similar situation, is what about after, and also part of it is, again, it's a saving move for this coaching staff. They're not gonna just because you trade for Stafford, Stafford's probably worth, honestly, probably 6 wins, 7 wins on top of what you already would have had without him. Just being fair and honest, he's that good. But
what if you already won 12 games?
What if he already won 12 games?
Talking Steelers, Joe?
What?
Are you talking like a Steelers type team that if they bring in Stafford, all of a sudden, maybe with that defense?
Yeah, but would you credit that to this coaching staff, or would you credit it to the quarterback that you made a trade for? Which I guess is not the smartest way of thinking.
I don't know, man. It just feels like even just the division, it's such a tough time to just go for it.
That's what I'm thinking, though, because
this is the toughest it's been in since when, the 90s? Every team is good.
Well, I think about the future right now. What's a rebuild right now when you've been rebuilding for 10 plus years, and you also have the Eagles who are going to be good for a very long time, and the Commanders just got Jaden Daniels. So,
well, I guess my logic with that is that then you can't give up future assets, and that's exactly what they would be doing. So they'd be hurting whoever was to come in next. That's my fear when you make a move like this. What if it's this year? I'm not saying this is what it is, but what if it was this year's first, next year's first, and a bunch of picks? Now you're hurting next year when this potentially this coaching staff GM could be out. That would be my fear about making a move for somebody like a Stafford. I don't know what they're asking and the collateral they're looking for back and the players, but I just feel like this is going to be one of those things where they could make a move and hurt the next transition.
Well,
Does Aaron Rodgers hurt you? Is that why you're answering the way you are?
Oh, go on, Joe.
I'm saying, is this more a reflection of what happened recently with Aaron Rodgers? So you're sort of like you're hurt a little bit from taking.
So to be fair, just to really talk about that really quick, if it was that kind of deal, like that's the deal you guys made, where it was a third round pick that could become a second based off of things that happen. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great deal to make. You're like, I think that is the kind of deal you would make, even if it was a second that became a first. If he did certain things and met certain goals, like I think that's okay. That to a point. My fear is it seems like, and I think that's what Steve was about to get into. I didn't see the comps that have been thrown around or what they're looking to get. But if it's one of those things where it's multiple, you're losing picks this year and next year, and these guys might not even be here next year. You might have a new GM and a new head coach. You don't want them to suffer because these guys try to save their job with a 37-year-old quarterback. However,
to jump in, sorry if I cut in, I would rather have a new coach for a rookie quarterback, to be honest. I
guess that's what I'm getting to. Is
I don't want a rookie quarterback with Dable, who's on the hot seat, and if you win 3 or 4 games again this year, he's probably gone. Like, what does that do for you that 1 year?
It doesn't.
But my thing is, like, Stafford to me is worth like only that third pick, that first overall pick, and then maybe some late draft picks. But if you start throwing in multiple first-round picks, which the Rams would be very happy to get back, like next year's first-round pick, then I'm thinking maybe we get a package where Cup's coming aboard. And then if you can restructure some contracts now and draft well this year, like you hold on to maybe that second pick, maybe it goes, but maybe you get somebody later. Like now all of a sudden you're making that jump where you're a contender in the playoffs. Because now you're bringing in Cup, who can still put up big numbers, and he's going to be opposite of Malik Neighbors. You have Tracy back there. You have Stafford, who's did a lot with little this year. I feel like, in my opinion, I know Williams is a great running back, but Puka was injured a lot of this season. Cup, there was a lot of weeks Cup didn't play the way he used to play.
They were living and dying with the Tutu Atwell connection for like 4 weeks.
Yeah, so I mean, like, a lot can change if you bring in 2 players like that. 2 guys that have been to the Super Bowl that still have a little bit left in their tank. I'm not the one thing that's holding me back from this trade is, like, I don't know if Stafford puts the Giants above like the Eagles or Commanders. So it most likely not. But if you take me back in a time machine to 2007 to 2011, I wouldn't tell you that the Giants were better than the Cowboys at the time. So a lot of things can happen. I mean, think about Joe Burrow's first year he went to the Super Bowl, or the only year he went to the Super Bowl. That Bengals team had no business being there, and not a lot of people thought they should have been there. NFL playoffs, you just make the NFL playoffs, a lot can happen. Nobody thought the Commanders were going to make the NFC Championship game this year. So just get me to the playoffs. Get me playing some good football going into the playoffs. Who knows what happens with this Giants team? Let's not forget, 2 years ago, they're in the playoffs. I know they had Saquon Barkley during that time, but it's not that far removed. Some of the talent's still there.
Sure. I don't disagree. I just know that when you bank on an aging quarterback, it's I just learned the hard way. But also,
you just made me remember that Eagles
Giants,
game.
Yeah, the Giants' decision does, which people need to realize, does impact what the Jets will end up doing as well. So, I do have a interest in this trade because, I feel that if the Giants do not take Shedeur Sanders, I think he ends up with the Jets. For some reason in my gut, it's telling me that that's what's going to happen. He's destined for New York. I thought it was going to be with the Giants, but now I've got a fear it might be with the Jets. So,
are you for the Jets? Because there's been a lot of rumblings. I like to think where there's smoke, there might be fire. I like to use that saying. But do you feel like the Jets might trade up from that 7 pick?
I think if it does happen, it's not going to be like when they did it for Darnold, where they traded pre-draft for it. I don't know, and I'm not sure that I'm for it. I'm kind of like let the board fall and see what happens. I don't think there's a quarterback worth making a move for this year. And if they did trade up, I think we know they're trading up to get Cam Ward. I don't trust the Jets to develop him. I don't. I have no trust that the Jets could develop Cam Ward. I have no trust they could develop Shador Sanders or any other quarterback. So, no, I am not for it. I do think there's smoke there. I would let it ride the board, and whatever happens, happens. If somebody falls to you, good. If not, take the best player available, move on. That's my opinion.
Calm accord.
Basically, let the board fall. Like
I'm not even kidding about that. I think it'll be good.
No, so do I. I think he's probably one of the best pocket passers in this draft. But like this year, and I don't think the quarterback draft class is as bad as people are making it up to be. And I've said that previously, but it's not, to me, it's not a draft class worth trading up to get a guy either. At least not in the first round. And the Jets, if they're trading up or to get Cam Ward, and what are you gonna have to give up to get Cam Ward? Why would you do that? I think the Jets and Giants are in a similar situation. Just let it ride. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Go out and get yourself a middle-of-the-road quarterback and let it ride. Keep developing the team. It's not one piece. It's going to. In theory, the Jets are probably a quarterback away from going to a playoff run. But I don't trust any of the quarterbacks.
Not this year.
No,
they were not.
No, this year they were not.
But
it was poor.
They
coaching.
Scored 24 plus plenty of times and lost.
Well, again, it was poor coaching as well. That's the God's honest truth. Once they got rid of Robert Saleh, the coaching went down and the defense suffered for it. And no matter what they said to defend Jeff Ulbrich, they weren't doing anything to back it up. That was a poor coaching. That was a poor coach football team. It was horrendous. I mean, I don't know this off the top of my head, but I'm willing to go bet right now that if you looked up the most penalized teams in the NFL, the Jets were them. That's how bad
Jacoby Brissett drive made me lose all faith in that defense.
Well, listen, it happened before that for me. So, but yeah, no, I
held out.
Yeah, the Jets are, if coached correctly, that defense is still the same defense that was last year. They didn't lose anybody really; they gained somebody. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of am the mindset: go get yourself a guy like a Justin Fields, a Kirk Cousins, sure, Sam Darnold. And let it roll, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And just add you got to keep building that roster. Both teams in New York, you got to keep building the roster. So,
all right. I want to kick this over to Joe first. I want to use his finance brain. Joe, if you had to guess who are the 5 most valuable franchises in all sports
in the world?
Look, I think they went by. Actually, was it Sports?
I know what he's looking at. It was just the United States. I'm pretty sure.
Well, Manchester United.
United give me the answers.
Number 17. So I think it was the world.
Cowboys.
Okay.
Yankees.
Okay.
Barcelona.
Okay.
Wait,
is that one of them? Barcelona.
I'm not going to tell you what you're wrong with, but keep going.
All right. Definitely no hockey. Right?
I'll give you that.
Oh, Lakers. Holy shit, the Lakers.
Okay, that's
gotta be the Lakers.
Yeah,
I'd imagine the Yankees, maybe the Red Sox. Maybe the Dodgers. Dodgers pay everybody everything. It's gotta be the Dodgers.
Mike, did you see the list?
I saw the headline for it, so I know who's number 1.
Okay. Oh, and the Korean Xiaoming Dragons or whatever Mike bet on the other day. That'll be number 5.
I think I actually have a bid to buy them.
Maybe after Joe starts winning some DraftKings bets, he'll be able to.
Royce O'Neal can step up in his minutes.
All right, let's hear this. Let's hear the list.
All right, so he was right with Dallas Cowboys as number 1. Lakers were on the list. They weren't number 2. The number 2 team was actually the Golden State Warriors. New York Knicks came in at number 3. So if Dolan ever wants to trade or sell, he's going to be a very rich man.
Oh, that's an obvious fucking answer.
Los Angeles Lakers
tourists
at number 4, and the New York Yankees at number 5. I got to admit, I know with Curry and all those championships, I did not think the Golden State Warriors were going to be in the top 5.
I mean, their owner was almost booed off the court like 12 years ago. Like that, one guy single-handedly turned that around. I guarantee. Well, it might also be the Silicon Valley money. I'm curious to see where they land in like 10 years if they don't get like another generational guy. Because obviously that team's like on its last couple years of trying to cling on to relevancy.
You don't think Jimmy Butler does it for you?
I mean, he's like 42.
I'm just,
I love Jimmy Butler, but he's in the same stage as Curry is.
yeah. I want to talk about this.
They have a 1998 Rockets kind of feel to them, Steve.
Hey, they can make a little bit of a run then. Who knows?
Yeah.
Get into the play-in game or something. Win there, go from there. Mike, I have a feeling you're going to have some good thoughts on this. But
there's only a couple teams in the West I would actually trust, like in the series, like completely.
Like NBA Finals, you're talking?
Just like in a playoff series where I'm thinking like a lower seed couldn't possibly beat them. It's pretty much like Nuggets, Lakers, and Thunder right now for me.
We need to get the Thunder into NBA Finals. SGA needs to be there.
Who needs to be there?
SGA.
No, I guess. He's Canadian. I don't care.
Hey.
I'd rather Anthony Edwards, but they're clearly not.
Yeah, I don't know about this year. Nuggets feel like they're just going to be back, or I feel like they're going to be the favorites. But Mike, I wanted to get your thoughts because I know you watch the WNBA. Diana Taurasi officially retired. What's your thoughts on her career and what she meant for the WNBA?
Oh, she was outstanding. She was an outstanding, player. I don't really have a ton of thought. My wife was a big Taurasi fan.
Let's get her on here. Is she still in the room?
No, she's already in bed. Yeah. I mean, she was a great player. She had a long career. One of my favorite things was her interaction with Draymond Green during the FIBA World Championships, where she said, "How does it feel being the only player in the room that doesn't get double teamed?" And that to me has always stood out to me about her. I mean, she kind of is like the female Kobe in a sense. She was no nonsense, willing to do the dirty stuff, great. She played great defense, was somebody you can count on, dependable offense. I think that it's probably overdue though, her retiring. I think it's probably a little bit longer than it should have been, but special player, great career, role model within the organization. And she set the tone for a lot of these women that have come after her. Girls like Caitlin Clark and Sabrina Ionescu and all these other 1 and 2 guards have Taurasi to thank for where the league is and them getting the opportunities they are. So I think she had a great career and she should be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
I've always wanted. So you watch a lot of women's hoops?
I do. Well, since I got married, yes.
So, 1st to 21, who would win?
Oh, boy.
2012, Diana Taurasi.
Diana.
And current day, Caitlin Clark versus 1998, Cheryl Swoops and 1985, Cheryl Miller.
You know what's funny about that? I have a bunch of Cheryl Swoops autograph stuff. Don't ask why. I don't know. I bought a lot, and I had a ton of her stuff.
Hey, 4-peat, dude. No one's done it since.
I don't know. I'm going to have to say Caitlin Clark and Taurasi.
No, you say anybody with Cheryl Miller.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with Taurasi and Clark because I think that their scoring is just out of this world. I think Caitlin Clark's going to be something the league's never seen, to be honest.
She will eat those little girls alive. Yeah. I'm telling you right now.
I'm sure.
I want to throw something in there with Taurasi because I have like a vivid memory. It was like the early 2000s. I just remember this because my family, we hardly went on a vacation, and for some reason we were on vacation during this time. I remember being in the hotel room, and it was like probably like 9 o'clock at night, and the Women's March Madness was on. And I remember Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird being in the backcourt for UConn, and no one could stop them. They were so dominant. And then
her at UConn was out of this world.
Yeah, that was you talk about some of the great UConn women's basketball teams. It's just been, Gino Ariama. He's just what he built there is just like unmatched.
He is the greatest college coach of all time, man or a woman.
No, I'm part of the Summit squad.
Pat Summit was very good too. R.I.P.
Yeah.
But that was
there used to be ESPN segments like, is UConn bad for women's basketball?
No, I thought
it was every year.
they made the women's sport better, in my opinion. They brought eyes to it because people wanted to see who was going to be the next person to beat them. It was kind of like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl now. Like people wanted to see the Chiefs fall. They wanted to see the Patriots fall. They wanted when the Yankees were winning all the World Series. People wanted to see the Yankees lose. It's the
Yep.
villain mentality. But one thing I will point out about Tarazi is this. Let's not forget this was well before NIL even became a thing. Well before it, like this was before like Johnny Manziel was off on the side making money off of autographs when he shouldn't have been. I don't think she was making a dime in college, if I had to take a guess. And she didn't make much when she first got to the WNBA because they were extremely underpaid, and that's been a conversation for so long. Getting women paid in sports, I know that the USA women's soccer team made that a big argument, and I think they got like equal pay eventually.
They did get equal pay to the men, but also they put up more money than the men did.
Yeah, exactly. But Tarazi, for me, she made the sport look so cool at the time with knowing that she was getting paid peanuts, like I know a lot of them go overseas and that's where they make their money or did at the time. But it's just like she was always having fun. She was dominant and she made a name for herself because I'm sure eventually the advertisements and all like the contracts she signed to like sponsor stuff, I'm sure that eventually got her paycheck that she was looking for. But in the beginning, she was probably just making like 50 grand a year to play basketball and travel the country. So you got to respect them, like the people who put in the work to get the sport to where it is. And it's not even where it should be because like we're talking about the WNBA where the richest contracts in the 200,000s compared to, and eighth men on the NBA teams are making, $80 million contracts. So it's crazy what the vast difference is between the two. And
the NBA is a lot compared to even other men's sports.
Yeah. I mean, we need to start having that conversation because, like, a lot of people at this point in the time, I think if Caitlin Clark's playing on a Wednesday night and Luca's playing on a Wednesday night, some people are picking Caitlin Clark over Luca.
Oh, I think Caitlin Clark's about to. The big thing is the league subsidized by the NBA. Caitlin Clark's about to change everything. I mean, they need to market this girl like exactly how she should be marketed. And same with Angel Reese. Like that rivalry, whether there isn't one or there is one, they need to play it up like there is because it sells tickets and it sells merchandise. I could promise you that whenever Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese match up against each other, they're going to do numbers.
She had her own. She just got her own box of Reese's Puffs.
Good for her.
She's doing just fine.
That is.
I want to go on record.
Genius marketing.
I do like Angel Reese. I just wish she'd make more of her shots so she didn't have to rebound him. But I do think she's a good player.
Yeah, under 30% shooting every game.
Yep, but she'll get 15 rebounds, 7 of which.
If Caitlin Clark were a cereal, what would she be?
Rice Krispies.
Really? I see like Honey Nut Cheerios.
Nope.
All right, KG.
We have a special guest, by the way, if anyone's noticed.
Yep, Mabel, who keeps biting me because she has to go out.
Did you name her Mabel after the show Only Murders in the Building?
No, I didn't name her at all. My wife did after her grandmother, I think. And
sense.
she's a little one. She's the size of my hand. Oh, that's the wrong view.
I hope you're preparing for like the every hour or two wake up call during the middle of the night.
So my wife has been doing great through that. She's been handling it like a champ. But I am putting her to bed tonight, so we'll see how it goes, right, Mabel?
Any other topics we want to hit, or are we good for this episode?
Nope. I think we're good. You know what? I think the Quentin Lake, outstanding guy. Probably it was my first interview.
How old is your dog? How old is your dog?
He's 15 years. She's 8 weeks.
It had to register.
She's 8 weeks old.
I don't know. Some breeds they breed specifically to like fit in like a purse. So
No. She's not going to be this small forever. I mean, and we'll see her progression every week. We'll put her on, but she should be like a 15-pounder.
So. Yeah, we that's our new mascot. We definitely got to get her on.
Is that a sweater or a cape?
It's actually a harness for her to wear when she's outside, but it keeps her warm. So
that's all that matters. So yeah, I think we'll close out here. Awesome episode. We talked a little basketball. We finally got that in about the Knicks. It was a very local episode. It felt like with the Giants and Jets talk. A little WNBA. Sportico came out with their list of most valued franchises. But I think I'm still pumped about the interview we had with Quentin Lake. It was a really good one. Joe, I'm excited for you to listen to it too.
Yeah, my first interview, and I don't think it'd take a lot to top it. He was a great guy, cool guy.
Yeah, really awesome guy. Gave some well thought out responses. But yeah, that's episode 32. We'll be back again next week. Thanks to anyone who's joining us. Remember, I keep forgetting to say this in the beginning of the episode, but we're on YouTube now. I'm really pushing that YouTube account, but under further review on there.
Yep. Follow, and share.
Like, follow, and share. Our first episode's up there right now. We had an interview with Cesar Ruiz last week. We're going to keep the fun going with this one, and then there's going to be plenty more where that came from. But for now, peace out, everyone.
Later.